Episode 6 of the Jules and Coffee Hour begins in 3, 2, 1. You're listening to the Jules and Coffee Hour, sharing the stories of Blizzard gamers around the world. Pull up a chair. We're glad you're here. Welcome to episode 6 of the Jules and Coffee Hour. I'm Jules.
And I'm Coffee. We wish you. I
think your audio cut out in Discord because it was so overwhelmed by the amazingness.
Oh, that's too bad because it was
It's
getting
terrible.
fired up.
I know. You have to watch the VOD for the full amount of audio.
The full experience.
It was beautiful. It was awesome. We're wearing our Santa hats today. We are prepared for another amazing episode. There's lights on in the Goldshire Tavern where we are sitting. And we're ready. We are ready to do this. And this hat is going to get hot. I can already tell.
Yeah.
It's going to get hot in here. And it's not because of the topic at hand. It's just because my head is hot.
It's not because of your fiery red hair either, is it?
Yeah, this is going to be now that we have a fiery red hat and fiery red hair. I love it, though.
So
I wish my hair looked like this all the time. I feel like we're misrepresenting the power of my hair on this podcast. And now Coffee is flipping his Santa hat around. It's an impressive thing.
It felt right.
I don't think I can do that. I think I've got it pinned down from my
Oh, you got to let
headset.
that baby ride free. You guys just let him
flip.
Yeah.
I like it on that side, so it's just going to stay there. If you haven't guessed already, we are talking about the holidays. It is that time of year. We're going to talk about the good and the bad, the funny and the sad. Because holidays are something that people feel a lot differently about in different ways. And hey, we're no different either. So, yeah. So we're recording this episode early on. This is the second of 3 recording sessions we are doing back to back to back. So full disclosure, you're getting us... when we do the third one, I don't know what you're going to get. So we'll just kind of put it out there. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But this is pre-recorded. We do not have a live chat room with us today, unfortunately. And we miss you guys terribly. We missed you in the first one, too. It's just weird.
But we'll be back so soon. I mean, time is going to fly by so fast. And that's part of the craziness of the holidays, right? It's like, pew, like super fast goes by, all the stress, all the anxieties, and all the busyness, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of it, and it's 2019, and here we are in 2019. What are you gonna do?
Write my dates on my checks wrong for a good 3 months because I don't write checks anymore.
Good point.
Yeah. Nah, it'll be more me typing in a Google Doc with the wrong date. That's what's gonna happen in the most of it. So I think that is going to just lead us directly into the topic of the week, which means we get to play a sounder called the topic of the week. Boop. It's time for the topic of the week. It sure is time for the topic of the week because we're sitting right in it. There's lights on. There's Santa hats on. Okay, let's get into it. Like, I don't know if I was actually dreading this one or not. I don't know. I honestly don't know how I feel about it because the holidays right now, like 2018 holidays, okay, to be honest, I'm kind of boycotting them.
Okay. You were saying this to me before, and I know when I was initially expressing that I had family coming in and, I was going to be super busy and with my parents and then the in-laws and then, Christmas and just all this other stuff, you were like... I can understand that. I'm not really doing anything for the holidays, and I was my ears perked up, and I was like, "Do tell, what's going on, Jules? What's the story?"
That's the story. Okay, so I live in Minnesota. Most of you know that, and most of my family is on the East Coast, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that area. That's where I grew up. That's where I'm from, and but over the years, it's been more and more difficult for me to travel home, be it work schedules or when I was married, it was like we have to spend time with my local family, my ex's family, and then so I haven't really spent a Christmas or a Thanksgiving at home in a long time. So for me, it was kind of not as big of a deal to not be going home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, but I will tell you guys as much as I am allowed to tell. And when I say allowed to tell, unfortunately, there's just certain things that I am not permitted to talk about
Legally.
um, legally. So, um, the holidays have been in the last 3 years just a raging trash heap, I guess is the way to put it. Um, my marriage fell apart 3 years ago on Thanksgiving Day.
Hmm.
Um, my cat, who was 6 years old, passed away actually a year ago tomorrow. It's tomorrow. The Christmas
Oof.
stuff with my ex's family, let's just say there's not good memories there. And over time, what's happened is that there's been a lot of so like bad traumas, and then me um not really so when I moved to Minnesota, I moved here because I was taking a job for working for Convert to Rage slash Signals Media, which was run by one of my best friends. And I moved here, they were kind of my safety net. And they were, I would go there for the holidays. And this year, they decided without a lot of warning to sell their house and move to California. So safety net gone.
Yep.
And suddenly I'm here in Minnesota I have some friends here and people that I know, but there's really nobody that I was like, oh, this is my family. So it kind of, this year specifically, it was like all this stuff that piled up and all these things that came around. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to cope with this. And so my best coping mechanism was to say, I ain't holidaying. I'm just not. Called up my
Heard.
therapist. And said, I need to work on this now. Because the traumas are real and they're bad and they haven't been dealt with. And what I've realized through therapy is that I'm really good at just taking things and like shoving them behind the door. And
Mm-hmm.
then, they don't exist anymore because I don't see them. And I go and I distract myself by working or expectations that I'm supposed to be better or, whatever. Um, so this year I'm dealing with the traumas slowly, surely. And I had a conversation with my parents and I just said, look, I'm not really financially able to come out and visit you guys right now. They're like, well, we could fly you out. And I said, no, I'd rather come and visit you guys at the time of the year where we can do the things we enjoy, which is to go down to the shore and go watch the boats and be in the sun and not the winter. And because the weather in New Jersey is about the same as
Okay.
it is here. It's a lot colder here, but in terms of winter, it's like it's winter in both places. There's no
Yeah.
real going out and hanging out anywhere. It's the weather sucks.
Gotcha.
So that's the real like TLDR version of where my holidays stand right now. And Thanksgiving was really hard. That was like I didn't expect it to be that hard, and it was. So I don't know what Christmas is gonna do. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't always this way, and I can tell other good stories later on. But that's kind of the summary.
That's what you're dealing with right now, and
Yes.
that's perfectly, reasonable place to be coming from. Like, I'm glad that you're taking the time to deal with that this year, and that's not something that you're just like gonna put off to the side because that's important stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to face your traumas. It's not easy to try to heal from old wounds or things that are newer, or just accept a lot of truths about yourself and where you've come. There's a lot of expectations that are put on you in this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Family, spending time with family. Everybody's great and happy and awesome. And I'm at a point in my life where I've been, I feel like I've been in transition for, 3 years. And every year it's gotten better, but facing a bunch of family, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I can't do it. I can't, I
That
can't
can
do
feel
it.
overwhelming.
Oh, like, and the
It feels super.
questions and the,
Oh, the
the pity
questions.
looks and the yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You're doing what with
Um,
your life now?
yeah, yes. So anyway, that is where that's 2018 Jules during the holidays. And I'm
Hmm.
slowly dealing with it. Slowly, I don't really know that they're here and it's okay. But I'm wearing a Santa hat, which is a really big deal right now because I'm wearing it on the show. I'm showing my festiveness because I can't even put my Christmas lights up in the house. I just can't right now. So, but every time I deal with some of this more, it's getting a little bit easier. And my therapist said, we're going to get Christmas back for you. We're going to get your holidays back for you.
That's
So
nice.
that's great.
That's a hell of a goal.
Yeah.
And you
Hell
and I were
yeah.
talking privately just before this, and maybe we'll touch on some of that stuff on next week's uh, New Year's episode. But it just sounds like there's some really cool stuff going on for you, and looking
Yeah.
towards the future, and that's something to celebrate. So it's not all bad, and
No,
I think it's great that this is something you're not shying away from, and you're tackling it head on. And the holidays are complicated time for sure.
Yeah.
Complicated time. So,
So what is it for you this year?
so for me, I'm hosting. This week I'm hosting my parents. Next week I'm hosting Emma's parents. So it's a lot of. Luckily, both of our parents are still together. So it's a lot of mother and father this week. A lot of mother and father next week.
Mm-hmm.
But the holidays have always meant family to me. It's tough to do it without family. We've been out in LA for 5 years or so, but even though we've been out here, we've always tried to still get together uh, with our parents somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always happen that way. Um,
Yeah.
and we've had to, and we've kind of reinvented what the holidays mean to us a bit. We've created our own rituals and things like that we do for Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving even.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's just part of um, establishing yourself as a married couple and as a separate unit and entity. But the holidays have just always meant so much to me. I mean, yeah, we bought our first house last year, shortly before
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. We moved into our
Oh.
our new condo, and I asked my wife to marry me on Christmas Eve.
Oh, I
Um,
love it.
So it's always just looking back. It's sure there's been tough times, but it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to um, overlook those beautiful moments in our lives that have always happened to us around the holidays.
Yeah.
So that's what the holidays are to me.
You've made wonderful memories around the holidays,
Yeah,
and that that makes wonderful sense to me too. Like it just that is what you're supposed to do. That's what it's like.
hmm,
That's what I think everybody wants.
hmm,
The thing that is difficult in life is that there are and I've spoken to a lot of people in the community over time is that it's life doesn't stop when the holidays come, and so the things that are good and bad about life happen over the holidays. So that's death and divorce and loss and all of those things, as well as joy and happiness and great things and marriages and babies and like all those things happen
yep.
no matter what time of year it is. There's just this extra pressure
The
that
world
comes
doesn't
on.
stop. The world just
No,
doesn't stop. It keeps on
no,
going.
no. And like I remember last year, you know, when you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with grief. Grief is one of those things where you it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that the world keeps moving even though you are stopped. And
Yeah,
it's one of those things where I just sit there and go, I don't understand how this happens. But and it's happened every single time I've lost a family member or a pet, where because grief is such a raw and pain filled emotion of just like out there.
hmm,
So you pair that with the fact that the holidays are so intense
yeah,
about feelings and things like that, it can the merging doesn't always do well. It doesn't always come together well.
Yeah.
But so a little background on my childhood. So my dad's side of the family is Jewish, and my mom's side of the family is Catholic. So when my parents got together, that was a very big scandal.
I bet.
And my actually my grandmother, my mom's mom, and my grandfather did not want my parents to get married. They did not approve.
Now, are they
But they
all
did
still
it anyway.
practicing today?
Yes.
Okay.
So what happened was is that my mom married my dad against her parents' wishes, and now, like my grandpa died when I was in third grade. My grandmother's still alive. She's 89 years old. She's
Wow.
my only living grandparent.
Wow.
Yes, because my dad's parents died before I was born, so I never met them.
Mhm.
But my grandmother and my father are just like peas in a pod, and they rag on each other all the time. I mean, we talked about my dad before.
The
It is
boatless man.
hilarious to listen to them. Oh, there's the boatless man. You
Boatless
know,
man.
I'll have to tell the story about how that boatlessness came around someday. Um, but in any case, so my mom converted to Judaism when
Oh.
and then my sister and I were also converted to Judaism when we were younger. So I got the best of both worlds as a kid. I got Hanukkah and Christmas
Wow.
because we'd go over to grandma's house for Christmas and we'd have Hanukkah at home and we'd do all the Christmas stuff at grandma's and everybody, the extended family, and we'd get presents there. And I get 8 days of presents or whatever it was for Hanukkah. Um, so I loved the holidays because it was like everything that, and it is still everything that I love. It is bright colors. It is sparkly, bright lights. I am a magpie coffee. I am. Anything that is sparkly, shiny, I am a magpie.
You just
I love it.
gravitate to it.
You guys can't see this, but my hat, if I turn my lights down, I have sparkles all along the
Oh
top of my
my.
hat. It's all sparkly.
Wow. Wow.
My Santa hat. Yes. The lights are not picking them up because they're too bright.
Did you get that from the real Santa?
I wish. I got it from Walgreens.
Oh. That's not
and
quite
like
the North
$1. No.
No.
Well, here in Minnesota, we're close. So
True. True.
I did buy it in Minnesota.
True.
But I love Christmas lights. Love them. I like if I get around to it someday and I have a little extra money, I will probably decorate my entire studio with lights because that is just me. So
That sounds great. That sounds
yes, I
awesome.
used to love, especially Christmas. I loved Christmas as a kid. So that's the I would want to go and see all the lights, like drive around all night and go see the lights and go see people's lights on their houses.
We had
Yeah.
this special street in Baltimore that was famous for really going wild with their Christmas lights. I think it was 34th Street or something in Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
That was just like, you know, the press would come and there'd be news camera crews and stuff there to see every year what this street would do with their front lawns. Not even lawn. I mean, it's Baltimore. There's stoops, you know,
There's
essentially
stoops.
for Christmas, but it was just insane. Animatronics and all kinds of stuff. And
Oh, dude, they went out.
yeah, my parents would always take me, and that was like a magical thing that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same thing with you though. My mom was raised Catholic. My dad
Mm-hmm.
was raised Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are practicing now, but when I was a kid, they tried to show elements of, you know, both of those backgrounds to me, and help me appreciate, you know, what meant the most to me.
Mm-hmm.
But Christmas lights, you know, just that beauty was always something that was really magical to me. So them taking me to the street every year and looking at the Christmas lights was very special.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh, I love that.
and even my dad, when we would celebrate, so I would say, you know, Christmas equivalent to in Muslim culture is, I mean, it's not the equivalent, but it's the first day of spring, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Nowruz, and it's the Persian holiday that I would most associate with Christmas. But it's
Mm-hmm.
very much the same thing of giving gifts, being with family, and it's cool because they actually use Christmas lights for it. They decorate the entire ceiling with Christmas lights. And that
Oh,
was something
wow.
that I always remembered being really drawn to, is the entire freaking ceiling is Christmas lights. So,
That was me when I went to college.
every day was no ruse.
It was because that was since we didn't have Christmas in my house, the first time when I moved out and went to the dorms at college, and everybody was like, "You could put Christmas lights on the walls." Done. Like I strung them all over the ceiling. I strung them all over the walls. It was just yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's such a dorm room thing to do. So yeah,
it
Nor'rus
is.
is every dorm room in the United States.
It's also that way because, at least like when I was living in the dorm, it's like, sure, I had this little Christmas tree that like my grandmother gave me to put up in my dorm, and
Mhm.
then I was just so like busy and lazy that I never took that Christmas tree down, so like it was always Christmas in my dorm room,
I
right? Like
love
I
it.
put up this great tree, and then I was like, doesn't it look so nice? Like, months later the Christmas tree is still there, and I'm like, it still looks really nice there. Let's just leave it up. It's almost Christmas again anyway. Let's just leave it right there.
Welcome to the Midwest where people put their Christmas lights up and then it snows like crazy, so you take them down in like April.
Oh man.
Yes, because nobody's getting up there in the middle of 2 feet of
Right.
snow trying to get up there.
Do the Christmas lights even work at that point, or are they just like frozen and broken?
They're usually fine. It's just that there's usually a neighborhood peer pressure that says you can't turn them on like after January 15th or something. So you just leave them up and don't turn them on.
Just leave them up there, but
Except,
just don't turn them on.
yeah,
It's not
like
acceptable.
those neighborhood associations are like, you have to frown upon this, and so yeah, no.
Yeah,
Um,
the Christmas light police will come by and scold you, or make a citizen's arrest.
Yeah, I live in a I live in a condo here, and we all have either balconies or porches, like the balconies up top and porches on the bottom. And I'm on an upper level, and so we
Hmm.
have the railings, and you can put Christmas lights on there. But
Yeah.
you're gonna get a nasty gram if you leave them up past a certain date, because that's not okay. So
This is like
yeah,
the
we'll have
new
to.
world of like owning a condo to me. Like I was on my roof the other day, like cleaning leaves like off of it, because it was they were on the skylight, and I just wanted to clear
Yeah.
up the skylight. Both the left condo and the right condo come up, and they come outside, and they go, hello up there, what are you doing up there? I'm like, I'm on my roof, I'm cleaning my leaves. And they're like, oh, are you allowed to be up there? And I'm like, yes, I own this condo, this is my condo. And they're like, oh, okay, well, just be careful. And they go back inside their house, and it's like, why are you in my business?
Yeah.
And the only thing I
Welcome.
can wonder is that, maybe they don't own, maybe someone owns that condo and they rent it to them or something, but it's
Oh,
like, I
maybe.
I own this condo. Like, I can do it's the best feeling of like owning this condo. I should be able to stand on my roof if I want to. And
Yeah, there's like ours has rules where they
you have like
they'll
a
take
homeowners
care of all this.
association or something
Yeah,
like that.
like
Yeah.
they're gonna maintain that stuff out there. But like I had a little bit of a leak coming out of one of my skylight here, and I called them up and they're like, "Well, if it's an internal crack in your skylight, then you're responsible for it."
Same thing happened to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Internal versus external, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do you define what is external and what is external? It's insane.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a lengthy like they'll pull out like this big old document and plunk it in front of you and say this is what
my gosh. But
welcome to condo living.
welcome
I
to
actually didn't know you
condos.
lived in a condo, so now we have another thing in common.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, in LA, it's like, I guess you either get a house or you get a condo, and I don't think we were ready for a house. And also, if we wanted a house, we were gonna have to live far too outside the city. We get the best of both worlds now. We're like 10 minutes north of downtown. We've got our little condo, and it's um, just great. Like, I
Yeah,
love it. And we
I
bought it
love it
about a
too,
year ago around Christmas time. So
which is even better. Christmas time.
yeah.
So were there any traditions in your family that were kind of the thing that you did during your gatherings?
There was always the tradition of, on Christmas, we invited over. We were always the house to go to on Christmas, and for Thanksgiving
Hmm.
we went to another house. So like for
Hmm.
Christmas we would invite over my uncle and aunt, on both sides. My mom's brother and his family, and then my dad's sister and her family, and we'd
Hmm.
invite them over for dinner. And my mom would always make her lamb. That was like our tradition, and that's just like been a constant in our lives until we moved to LA and we no longer participate in that. But it's fun. It's sad a little bit, but it's it's sad to kind of look back and remember that that's the way things used to be.
Yeah.
Um, but we can look back at that fondly and remember those good times, mostly good times. You know, it's like family doesn't always get along, right? I think we can
No.
talk about that, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are out there dealing with that right now. It's the time of the year, but it's family just doesn't always get along, and sometimes my dad's side of the family didn't get along with my mom's side of the family and things like that, and there was many a holiday entanglement or disagreement that was just so silly, and it was just based on something so small. And I think that that happens around the holidays, and I think it's overcomplicated and further uh, stretched by just people having expectations of other people that aren't
Yeah.
realistic, and asking questions about what you're doing in your life, and having reactions to that. It's just it's a very tough time for a lot of people, and I respect that. And um, anyone that's out there going through that right now, it'll be over very soon, and it won't always be like that. One day, in the very near future, you're gonna wish that you could enjoy all those people and that time with them. So try to do your best to enjoy it now while you can, because family is just family is too good. Family is just too
Yeah.
good to take for granted. And there may come a time in
Yeah.
the near future where you don't have that family to enjoy that time with. So, as hard as it may be, try to soak up every second with those people, because that's what it's all about. It really
Hmm.
is.
I mean, I had that with that feeling with my own family, and where family is super important. Um and then I met I met family members who were not my own, and those who will not be named. Um but realized that my Pollyanna view of the world, where everybody, like, family is the most important, family kind of gets blown out of the window when you deal with truly toxic people, truly painfully toxic, destructive people.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, like that's kind of part of some of the stuff that I'm dealing with, is just like this long-term toxicity that was ingrained upon us, me, and that I no longer have to deal with, thank goodness. But it leaves its mark, and yeah. So, but I was just, what you just said, I truly and honestly, because of the experiences I had, parents both together, and my family, for the most part, pretty supportive. I was like, well, it always is like this, isn't it? And
Yeah.
then, yeah, it's a rude and painful awakening. And I've over the years have talked to a number of people who've written into shows and just talked about the utter toxicity of certain people in their lives. And it's just like, I'm actually grateful that I don't have, or that I lived in a time where I didn't have that perception of people. And
Mm-hmm.
I always want to have the best intentions of people. I always want to think the best
Right.
intentions of people. Never want to think about people who are diabolically evil. Like, just, it's like flat out 100% narcissistic,
Jesus.
destructive people, right? And so, yeah, like, I had my eyes open to that, but I had a pretty awesome childhood in terms of just the loving family. And as it turns out now, which is really interesting, on my mom's side of the family, is that two of her sisters are basically disowned for the actions that they've taken towards other people, and it's like horrific stuff. And
Oh, jeez.
which is like horrible when you think about it, because, like, when I was little, we all used to be together. We all used to be getting into the gatherings and having fun, and everybody seemed to relatively okay, got along.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like life just life is wild. And when I decided that I was going to, I think one of my most important life lessons in my learnings about things is that when you're raised in a world, and you may have been raised in the same world, where people just say family is family no matter what,
Hmm.
and you then realize that you can actually say no to that. You can say, I
Yeah.
do not want you in my life. You are not someone that I ever want to speak to again, even if you're a family member. And and that's what's happened with my aunts is like they're
Wow.
literally just no. But they
Hmm.
did some horrific stuff
Right.
to people, you know, robbery, manipulation, stealing stuff.
There's definitely a limit, and I think that that's that's part. It's almost that way when you're dealing when you have a family member, um, that struggles with addiction or something like that.
Yes.
Part of it is like the tough love of, if you have to disassociate yourself from that and you can't support that, so you it's kind of like that. If you draw a
Yeah.
line and you cut it off, it's the best thing for both parties, honestly. If you
Yeah. Yeah. My poor grandmother's going through that because these are her daughters, and one of them is a raging alcoholic, and the
hmm
things that she has done over the years has been atrocious. And
I'm sure your grandmother loves her to death, but it's like you have to like think about yourself at some point and your health and
and
your safety.
yeah, and when you're an enabler like grandma is,
Hmm.
that end the aunt knows exactly how to manipulate her to get what she wants.
Right.
You know, my parents live very close to, they actually all live in the same 55 and over community, so my grandma's like down the street from where my parents are.
Hmm.
um so that's great because then she can come in, you know, they can come in at any time. But they've been directly dealing with this situation, like got to the point where they actually locked her out of my grandmother's house, like changed the garage door she's not permitted in, um because I mean it was that bad. And and I spoke to my parents, and apparently my aunt had figured out a way to manipulate my grandmother back and got in. And they were, of course, devastated and upset, and not, you know, and she stole more money from grandma, and grandma realized she gotten manipulated again, and it was just like, oh my god. It's just, I mean, these are the horrible things that come as a result of family
Hmm.
sometimes. So it's the reality. And I can't even imagine what some people have to go home to this year sometimes, you
Yeah.
know, especially people who are our LGBT friends, you know, or people who are living in lives that are not accepted by their families. I just, I know that it's hard. And so my heart goes out to you, and just know that you're not alone,
Yeah.
because the holidays aren't the best thing in the world.
I
But
also
I'll
I
tell
also
you,
hope that people recognize exactly what you said, and that is that you can also choose your family, and you don't have to
yes.
feel obligated to go back to that.
Yeah.
This is to everyone out there that's made their own home, their new family. Sometimes it's best to just stay put and be surrounded by the people that you know and love with all of your heart, and you don't always have to go back. Um, but it is, as I said, it's family is family, and you won't always have them. Sometimes that's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
to you should find the ones that you appreciate the most, and never let them go, and prioritize them, the ones that mean the most
Yeah.
to you, and
Yeah.
and that fam and part of that is just learning a little bit about yourself too. I think to find who your true family is, got to do a little bit of self-reflection and figure out who you are, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's a work in progress. My goodness. Like
isn't
I'm
it
still
though? For
doing that.
everybody, for everybody, it really is.
I am still doing that. So there's a fun tradition that actually a couple of them that I had from my my childhood and things from growing up. I talked about the Christmases. Um, Christmas time at my grandmother's house was a very large deal. My mom had 5 brothers and sisters, and all had, eventually got married, had kids, and so as the family would grow every year and get
Mm-hmm.
bigger. And so my sister and I were the first grandchildren, because my mom is the oldest child, and so for a while we were the only grandkids. And but what we would do for a tradition is they would all buy presents, like they'd have names and pick, and everybody would get a gift, and then they'd buy all the presents for me and my sister. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was, but they would do it in a way that was infuriating because every year they switched it. One year it would be oldest to youngest, and one year it would be youngest to oldest. So
Oh boy.
I am the oldest of my sister and I. So my sister, when it was youngest to oldest, we were like, yeah, we get to open all our presents now. When it was oldest to youngest, it was like 17 people before it got to us and the pile of gifts that are sitting in front of us.
Right.
And this is what adults do. You guys know this when they're opening a present. Oh, what's in here? Oh, oh,
Oh.
it's a hat, isn't it? No, it's not a hat.
They shake it.
Shake it. Thank
Oh
you.
my! Oh my goodness! Do you believe it? Can you hear?
You
Listen
got me
to
a
that.
car.
Yeah.
It takes them 15 minutes to open any gift.
And you're
And
sitting
then
there like, Jesus, come on, Grandma! The hell is this? Right?
So think about like that on Christmas morning after you've been waiting forever, and it's like it's been 3 hours and you're like waiting to just get into your presents
Yeah.
as a kid. That's what Christmas could be. It was every year, and I didn't keep track of it because I was too young. But I didn't know what. And they'd be like, "What is it this year? Is it oldest to youngest?" And we all be like, youngest to oldest.
Right.
So that was
Oh
that
my
was fun.
gosh.
The other thing our family did, which they still have it. I don't know who has it. I think my grandmother might. There's this old candle, really old, like one of those old Christmas candles that had the glitter in them, like a
Mm-hmm.
red. I don't know if you remember seeing this like a while ago, like old stick candle. And we would take turns every year after dinner, and everyone would get the chance to light it, oldest to youngest,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or youngest to oldest, and you'd make a wish and you'd blow it out for the year.
Oh, that's nice.
And then at the end, we would light it, and we would do a remembrance for anybody who passed,
Oh wow.
and then blow it out. And it was super
Hmm.
like, this is a family that like was super emotional but also very like not good about being emotional about things.
Yeah.
So everybody would just be all like weird about crying and stuff. And
Aw.
yeah, it was, I mean, I have a really fond memory of it though because it really was like a really special thing that we did. So,
That's a really nice tradition. That's really
yeah.
sweet. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Feel free, anyone who's listening, to adopt it. It was a very good one. And now that our big family Christmases are no longer the thing, but it's definitely something that I remembered every year. So
I would have mentioned something about kind of the Iranian version of Christmas, which is
yeah,
the first day of spring. It's not coming up now, but it's when I think about the holidays, I also think about Nowruz, and I think about Seiz de Beidar, which is this kind of picnic that they have where they well we will jump over a fire, a burning fire, which I know sounds insane, but um, part of that whole process is cleansing yourself,
yeah,
for the new year. And it's supposed to bring good luck and fortune and that sort of thing. And um, that was something I just always loved about our holidays, is that we combined elements of all of our backgrounds and cultures. And uh, my dad, even though he never taught me to speak fluent Farsi, he always taught me a lot about the culture and
hmm,
how he was raised. And he showed me things like that became really special, that now that I'm older, only now can I start to really begin to appreciate that sort of thing. So
oh, will you have any of that adopted in your weekend this weekend?
possibly he's so none of that's going on right now. It's typically doesn't start until March, but it's
Hmm.
sort of like the Persian version of Christmas, but there's actually a massive Iranian community in Los Angeles, and there are
Hmm.
these festivals, and they try to, um, I mean, it's like to the max, like kind of crazy partying and with all these, with Persian dancing and music, and I definitely come March, I will try to find a festival going on, and we'll try to go to one and celebrate that. But
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I kind of hope that you will take some photos of that if you do it and share
oh
it on
yeah,
your social media because I know
yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing it. I think others would too.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll see if my parents want to do any of that while they're visiting too, or kind of do something influenced by that, or something honoring that part of our history too. Because like I said earlier in the other episode, I'm just really looking forward to sharing some time with them. It's been a while since I've had them both at the same time, because occasionally they'll come out and visit me one at a time. It's very hard to
Yeah.
get my dad to travel, though. It's very hard to get my dad to travel. So the fact that they're both here is really special.
Ah, it's gonna be great, and I'm so happy that you get to do that.
Yeah, me too.
It's gonna be a good time. So, I think I have exhausted all the questions I had or things that I wanted to talk about. But is there anything related to the holidays that you wanted to bring up?
No, I mean, that's it. I just just to reiterate, it's like, I know how tough the holidays can be, especially if you're um I think a lot of people feel pressured to backtrack and go visit, their families, and families can be so tough, especially if they don't support you and honor you in the way that families should. But just remember, it's a temporary moment in time, and to try your best to enjoy your loved ones, the people that truly love you during this time, because there may come a time where they won't always be there.
Yeah.
And the holidays are just weird, man. I think people
Yeah.
put too much pressure on the holidays. They make such a big deal about them being so perfect and great, but if you live your life in a way where every day could be a holiday, and you honor and respect people, you give people gifts like any
Hmm.
day of the year, what is a holiday? Is it really that? Does it matter? Is it really that special if you're living your life to the fullest and celebrating every day as if it were a holiday? It's so weird to put so much pressure on one day, or one time of the year, when you could really
Yeah.
make every day of the year just as special.
There's one thing I wish that would happen during the holidays, and that would be the pressure to buy people things that just because you feel like you have to.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest thing for me is like cuz I've never been a person that has a lot of extra money to do that
Mm-hmm.
the and I like if you're a studier of things like the five love languages, like that's definitely something that there are people that just that's their thing. They
Mm-hmm.
get so happy by presenting someone with a gift to show them their love.
Yeah.
But there's so many people I've had family members who are just like they just buy you stuff for the sake of buying it for you and it has no meaning. It has
It's not
no
thoughtful. Yeah, it's just they
no,
felt
it's just
pressured to do it at that time.
yeah. My sister does this and I hate it. Um
Yeah.
but I actually this year I actually did text her and just said, "Look, I'm having a pretty tight financial year, so the present thing is probably not going to happen, and I don't want you to buy me anything this year."
Mm-hmm.
And she replied back and she said, "Yeah, it's pretty tight for us too, and so yeah, that's fine." So that was good. I'm
That's
glad that we
good.
did that.
That's really
Yeah, I
good.
just because I hate it. I feel really horrible about receiving something that is just like the
Yeah.
exact opposite of what I would ever want and then be like,
Yeah.
I know you bought this for me because you care. And if you maybe just like did something else, like
I just don't
anything
think that
else.
sort of pressure is necessary when,
No.
you can. It's like, like an example is, I mean, we didn't really get anything for my parents for Christmas. I mean,
Hmm.
we got them this trip. We invited them to come visit us, and we covered that. But like an example is, we were down in San Diego a couple months ago, and we saw this bag, this little purse that we thought my mom would really like, and it wasn't
Hmm.
it wasn't Christmas or anything like that, but we're just like, this is a really nice thing. Very, there was such an inexpensive little thing, but we knew like my mom would freaking adore this. And
Yeah,
it didn't have to be Christmas, but we got it because it's like it's just a thoughtful gift, and you don't have to put that pressure on. It's a holiday. Now we have to buy someone something. It's just this is something. This is a gift that someone would really like. It's not a holiday. Let's just get them this thing. And I think if we
yeah,
start to enjoy all of our days like that, we'll put less and less pressure on these holiday times.
agreed, 100%. And that's the one thing I really do wish would change about our culture because it
Yeah.
is it's so pressure filled to have to buy stuff and spend money and shop it. I like I do not like going out at all during the winter anyway, but
Oh,
forget going anywhere near a store anytime
oh
during
my
this time of
gosh.
year, right? Right.
I
Like
can't do. God bless my wife because I can't do a grocery store like when it's not the holidays. And then the
yeah.
holidays come and it's like I'll have an anxiety attack if I step foot in a grocery store. It's so much. It's a lot to handle for me.
It is.
It's a lot.
I wound up going shopping for groceries last night at 8 p.m. because that was at least, and it was great because there was nobody there.
I was gonna say that
Um,
sounds like best case scenario.
it was. I had a free evening. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go get the grocery shopping done. I have very few free evenings these days, and that was perfect. But
Hmm.
I feel you so much because that is the toughest thing for me.
Yeah.
It's just like I can't. The rat race. The rat race just
Right.
feels like ooh. So,
Oof.
but
I'm shuddering right now. Yeah.
we need a palate cleanser. We do. We need to
We
palate
do.
cleanse this.
We
But
do.
before we do that, thank you so much for listening to our thoughts about the holidays. We hope that you enjoy yours in the best way that you can. You can send your thoughts and feedback to this discussion to podcast@heroeshearth.com. Each week, we're going to be tackling a new topic, and you are welcomed and encouraged to send us your own as well. And we'll take any type of discussion pretty much, whether it's game related or just about life in general, but it's about our lives as gamers. So we'll quickly preview the next topic for the next show, which is going to be about goals and a reflection of our year from the past, 365 days or so, and talking about where we've come from and where we plan to go next. And so that's going to be Coffee and Jules focus because we don't have anybody else sending us stuff. But
It's
but
such
this
a
is
great topic though because
I know.
it's like setting goals for yourself is so important, and especially because uh, dreams don't always have to be dreams,
No.
and dreams are a really weird thing because dreams evolve, and your goal that you have this year for yourself may not be your goal next year. You could go
Mm-hmm.
through like a transformation, or maybe it's a similar style of goal, but just dreams change all the time. I
Yeah.
think it's so cool to see that happen. So yeah, I'm excited for that conversation.
Well, on the timeline we are right now, we're going to do that in probably about 30 minutes.
There you go.
There you go. But first, it's time to tell stories. So we're going to play a little sounder called Tell Me a Story. Hey, Coffee, tell me a story. You get to tell me a story. I get to tell you a story. It can be anything we want, but we're probably going to make it about the holidays. So go.
Let's do it. This is a good one. So this is when I was very young. I can't recall exactly when it was, but I was living in Baltimore City at the time in a little townhouse. I was very young. My parents had gone out and done all this Christmas shopping, and they had hidden the gifts in their bed under the covers.
Okay.
And I was such a naughty little shit that I was snooping around trying to find these damn gifts. I had to know what I was getting for Christmas. I was just such a brat. And I ruined the surprise. I went in, I like snuck up to my parents' room, looked all through it, finally looked under the covers and just saw it all. And it was like a gold mine. It was just I couldn't even contain myself. And that night, this was like a week before Christmas. That night, I went to bed and I couldn't sleep. The guilt was so bad. I just was
Oh.
I was overcome with this guilt for doing that and ruining the surprise. That the following day, I woke my parents up and I said to them, "Mom, Dad, I'm really sorry, but I snuck into your room and I saw all the presents." And they they said to me, "Son, that was a really honest thing you did telling us, and we're not mad at you at all. We appreciate your honesty, but we're taking them all back."
No!
So they took all the toys back to the store.
Shut up.
Every
No.
single gift they took
Shut
back.
up.
Yep.
No, really?
Every single one. Every single one. And they
Did you not get anything?
No, they got stuff. But all the ones that I saw under the damn covers were gone. So, yeah. I still got stuff. It was still good stuff. But everything that was under there, whoop, back to the store. It was nuts.
I am totally and utterly in love with your parents right now,
Yeah,
because
they're
that
kind of
takes
badass.
balls.
They're kind of
That
badass.
is amazing.
Can you imagine the work to take that all back too? Like, I just constantly in awe of my parents. I mean, they taught me a lesson.
That
It
was
was
a
good.
killer good lesson. Oh,
I remember
my
seeing
God.
this amazing like Batman utility belt, and like it had the freaking like the grappling hook, and it had the Batman like throwing stars, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I can't wait for Christmas to have this Batman utility belt." Nope. No Batman utility belt.
Did you
Not that
ever get
Christmas.
it?
I don't think I ever got it, no.
Oh no.
But
Because you know what? You remember it so fondly right now that would have, like, they got you. They got you good.
yeah, they got me good. It was a good lesson, and I just have so much respect for my parents. But that was a really cool Christmas memory, and that was I mean, just a heartbreaking moment at the time, but such a good moment to look back on. Really is.
Did you know that they took it back? At like that you had known that they got you new stuff, or no?
Not
What
until
did
I
you?
opened some random stuff on Christmas morning.
Wow.
Yeah, I started
Wow.
opening the gifts, and what is this? This isn't what you got me. And they're like, "Oh, it's not. What do you mean?" Unbelievable. Shiesty.
Damn.
I know.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I cannot top this story, but I can give you a comparison.
Okay.
Wow. So we've talked about this already on the show, that I'm a big She-Ra fan.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a big She-Ra fan since I was little, and watched the cartoon religiously, loved it so much. And this was the year that they came out with the big She-Ra castle. And it was awesome. It was probably, a couple feet tall. I can't remember now. I was a kid, so it was probably taller than I think it was. And
everything's bigger, right?
yeah, exactly. It had the elevator in the middle that you could, like, put your character in. You could pick them up and go up there. And I had some of the She-Ra figurines, and I had the horse and the turned into the Pegasus and all that stuff. But I really wanted the castle, like really, really, really wanted it.
Yeah.
And I was a curious, shitty little kid too. I was too, and there was no way I was not going to find out what presents that had been purchased. But my parents were not the ones that could hide things like super crazy. They didn't go and all like they put it under their bed.
Yeah, it wasn't like, secret agent was like not gonna find it, right?
Right. It wasn't like up in the attic or like in the oven or in the trunk of the car or something like that. So I wound up like I knew that it was there. So anytime that I could, when I knew that they weren't looking or they weren't paying attention, I would just go and like lay on my stomach and look under the bed and just watch it and just look at it.
My gosh. Oh man.
They had the little bed skirt underneath, and so you'd like pull up the bed skirt and just look at it like it's going to be mine.
Right.
It's going to be mine. And then it was, and I got it, and I was so happy. But I was terrible. I didn't go to the lengths of like unwrapping stuff, like because they did finally figure out that I was pretty sneaky.
So they had to wrap it sooner rather
like
than
they
later.
get it and wrap it, and then they'd be like, "There it is. You're not getting it."
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah,
I'd see. That's the thing. I don't think my parents ever wrapped anything until like the night before, so I had all this time to go looking for stuff, which is so bad, so tempting.
Yeah.
So tempting.
Oh, that's awesome.
No.
So yeah,
So
we've
you're
now
a bad
proven,
girl too. You're
yeah.
Okay.
I think if you put my D&D profile, I am probably chaotic good somewhere in there.
Okay.
I mean, I'm probably chaotic good because I kind of ride the line of the the good things, and I like to break certain rules if I want to break them. Right. So I just do. So,
okay. That's fair.
But I don't know. I've never done a D&D campaign, so one day we'll find out for sure who I am as a personality type.
One day.
I don't know. We'll see. Wow, and that I think is going to be a good place for us to say this is the end of this episode. We did a good one. This one was a ton of fun. And hey, we didn't cry in this one.
No crying in this one. My goodness. Jeez
no
Louise.
Crying on the holidays. My goodness. Well, maybe next one.
There's always next time.
That's right. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Jules and Coffee Hour. We hope you've enjoyed this time by the fire. And that means that we get to play this lovely little music to take us out of here. So let's do it right now.
Let's do it. In a second. Here we go.
In a second.
It's not playing.
Getting it to work. It's not playing. It's playing on my side.
I got it. Here we go. There it is.
There it is. We got it.
Want to contact the show? You can email us at podcast@heroeshearth.com. And if you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can find me at coffeeclub_TV. And you can find Jules at JulesRPG. You can also use those handles to follow our personal streams on Twitch and be notified when we go live.
You can join us for those live broadcasts at twitch.tv/coffeeclub_TV. And that's Mondays at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, or find us in podcast form on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podcast, TuneIn, and
if you like this show and like to support the great entertainment brought to you by Heroes Hearth, please consider supporting them on Patreon. Patreon.com/HeroesHearth.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We love you. We love you all. And until next time, we're glad you're here.
Happy holidays, everyone.